You know, if you read an outstanding script, that's as far as it goes. After that, it has to do with who you're going to work with, who's going to be the cinematographer, who's going to direct it, how well you handle yourself.
The Shawshank Redemption stands as the top-ranked movie on IMDb since 2008. Yet at 87, Morgan Freeman reveals what really happened on the Shawshank Redemption set during its creation. And what he's revealing about what really went down on that set? It's the kind of information that'll leave your jaw on the floor. It's about the untold truths, the real emotional toll, and the deep humanity behind one of cinema's most perfect illusions. Stick around, because what you're about to see next, it's gonna change the way you watch The Shawshank Redemption forever. Let's dive in. Morgan Freeman at 87, looking back on Shawshank. Nearly 30 years after The Shawshank Redemption first came out, Morgan Freeman sits down and just let it all out. Can you believe it's been that long? It almost feels like one of those movies that's always been there, like it was stitched into the fabric of time or something. But here's the thing. When Morgan Freeman filmed it back in 1993, he was 56 years old. Most people hear that and go, "Wait, what? Are you serious?" Because let's be honest, he carried himself like someone who had seen everything, like a man who had already lived 10 lifetimes. People just assumed he was much older, and honestly, that just speaks to how deeply he got into the character of Red. The man was Red. Now, for Freeman, this film wasn't just another role. It was a turning point. You know those rare moments in life when everything just shifts and clicks into place? That's what Shawshank was for him. It was the kind of project that elevated his already impressive career to another level. There was even this extra on set who once said, "Morgan Freeman is such an icon anyway," but that was the role in his career that helped it get even better. And that hits, doesn't it? Because Shawshank didn't just fade into the background like some movies do. No, it grew. It became this quietly explosive, slow-burning legend. New generations keep discovering it, quoting it, feeling it in their bones. And right there in the center of it all, Freeman's performance, still glowing like an old lighthouse in a storm. Morgan Freeman is known for his calm and wise presence. But you don't know what he just admitted about filming The Shawshank Redemption. At 87 years old, he's telling the truth he kept quiet for decades. Watch till the end, because that final story will hit you right in the gut. Did you know that Freeman almost didn't even take the role? He picked up Stephen King's novella, gave it a look, and then literally closed the book after the first page. Why? Because Red was written as a red-headed Irish guy. And Freeman, being Freeman, thought, "I can't play an Irishman." Fair point, right? But thankfully, he gave it another shot when he got his hands on Frank Darabont's screenplay. And you know what he said about it? He said it was one of the best scripts he had ever read. Imagine if he hadn't given it that second chance. What would the world have missed out on? The thing about Red is that he's not some innocent, saintly figure. Unlike Andy, Red did the crime. He's guilty. And that gave Freeman this whole emotional landscape to play in. This wasn't a simple story of justice. It was a story of redemption, of patience, of slowly finding your way back to believing life can still be beautiful, even after decades in the dark. Freeman has always said that Red's story is about salvation. And if you've seen that final scene, the one with the blue sky and the ocean and the two men reuniting, you know exactly what he means. That kind of emotional payoff doesn't come unless you've really been through something. Freeman brought that weight, that sorrow, that cautious hope. It earned him an Oscar nomination, and let's be real, it was one of the best performances of his life. And even now, after all these years, he still can't shake the film's shadow. "I can't get through a day without someone mentioning that film or quoting that line to me," he once said. And you already know what line people are quoting: "Get busy living or get busy dying." That line has practically taken on a life of its own. It's painted on walls, tattooed on arms, stitched into graduation caps. And that parole board speech? Ooh! Goosebumps. The way he says, rehabilitated? That's just a bullshit word. You feel that. It's one of those moments where the character peels off the mask and just lays it all bare. But here's where it gets even more beautiful, how time has deepened everything. As Freeman has aged, so has his understanding of what the movie really means. He once said, "The key to feeling good at this age is that you just can't quit." Doesn't that sound exactly like something Red would say? He said that at 76, but now he's 87, and still going, still reflecting, still walking in the legacy of that film. And the funny thing is, his own thoughts on aging line up so neatly with Red's journey. He said something once that really sticks. "You don't retire from the movies retire you." That was actually a line from his friend Michael Caine. But Freeman owns it. And isn't that kind of the whole point of Red's story too? Finding meaning and purpose again after life has chewed you up and spit you out? And let's not forget his voice, that iconic, velvet storybook voice. If there's a narration Mount Rushmore, Morgan Freeman is carved right into it. Remember the scene when Andy locks himself in the warden's office and plays The Marriage of Figaro over the prison loudspeakers? That moment is already beautiful. But then Freeman's narration slips in and takes it to a whole new level. It's not flashy, it's just truthful. That's his gift, finding emotional truth and speaking it in a way that makes you stop and listen. Honestly, it's no surprise that in 2015, the Library of Congress selected The Shawshank Redemption for preservation in the National Film Registry. That means it's officially recognized as culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. And the wildest part? It all almost didn't happen. All because Red was written as an Irishman, and Freeman thought he couldn't pull it off. But fate had other plans. And thank goodness for that. The role of Red and a casting that broke the mold. In Stephen King's original novella, the one with the mouthful title, Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, Red isn't Morgan Freeman, not even close. He was supposed to be this middle-aged white Irish guy with fiery red hair, hence the nickname, right? Red. Makes sense. So, when you hear that and then think about Morgan freaking Freeman playing him, you kind of pause for a second. Like, wait, how did we get from a pale Irish guy to the smooth-voiced, wise, calm presence that is Morgan Freeman? But thank goodness we did. And get this, Morgan Freeman himself wasn't exactly sold at first. In an interview from back in 2014, he said he literally closed the book after the first page when he saw that Red was Irish. Can you imagine? He thought, I can't play an Irishman, and almost didn't pursue it any further. Like, what? That hesitation almost cost us one of the most iconic performances in movie history. Can you even imagine someone else narrating that film? Or delivering that final monologue with such quiet hope and strength? I mean, seriously, can you? But the movie didn't just ignore the difference and hope no one would notice. Nope, the filmmakers were cheeky about it, in a genius kind of way. There's that one brilliant moment when Andy asks Red why he's called Red, and Morgan Freeman, without missing a beat, just smirks and says, "Maybe it's because I'm Irish," then keeps it moving like it's nothing. That line? That's not just a throwaway joke. That's the film giving a little wink to all the fans who read the book and knew the backstory. It's like a little inside nod, a tiny Easter egg, and it's perfect. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Freeman wasn't even the director's first pick. Can you believe that? Frank Darabont, the guy who directed the movie, had his mind set on actors who actually looked like King's description. We're talking big Hollywood names, Gene Hackman, Robert Duvall, Clint Eastwood, Paul Newman. All absolute legends, no doubt. But none of them Red. At least, not the Red we came to know and love. So who steps in and changes the game? Producer Liz Glotzer. She suggests Morgan Freeman. And suddenly, it's like the clouds part, and the sun beams down on this inspired idea. Darabont already knew Freeman from a smaller prison movie called Brubaker, and once the idea clicked, it really clicked. And once Freeman heard about the role, oh, he was in. Like, all in. He told his agent it didn't even matter what part it was, he just wanted to be part of it. That's how powerful the script was. And when they told him they wanted him for Red, he said something like, "Wow, I control the movie." And he really wasn't wrong, was he? But here's the part that makes you really appreciate Freeman's take on Red. He didn't do the usual deep dive research into prison life like other actors might. He didn't study inmates or try to mimic someone else's trauma. He said that playing a prisoner didn't require special preparation, because men don't change. It wasn't about the setting for him, it was about the humanity of the character. Isn't that kind of beautiful? Like, he wasn't trying to be a stereotype. He was trying to be a person. Just a real, complicated, broken, but somehow still hopeful person. Freeman's portrayal gave the film its heart. Sure, Andy Dufresne has the clever escape and the plot twists and the hammer and the posters and all that. But Red? Red feels like the soul of the story. That narration? His voice literally guides us through everything with that calming tone that makes you want to listen even if he's just reading a grocery list. And the way Freeman plays him, from this deeply institutionalized man who's given up on hope to someone who dares to believe again, it's nothing short of breathtaking. And it wasn't just about making Red sympathetic. Freeman brought out this deeper moral layer to the character. Unlike Andy, Red isn't innocent. He did commit his crime, and he knows it. And yet, through his relationship with Andy, through their quiet conversations and shared silences in the prison yard, he finds redemption. It's not just a clever title. The whole story is about redemption. And Red's journey shows that even someone who's made terrible choices can still find peace, even if it takes decades. And let's talk about that friendship. Philosopher Alexander Hooke, yeah, this story even inspired philosophers, said that the true freedom Red and Andy find isn't just escaping a prison wall. It's in their friendship. It's in being able to laugh together, to hope together, to dream again. Isn't that something? Isn't that what we all kind of want? To be seen, to be understood, to have that one person who believes in us when we can't even believe in ourselves? So when you think about it, casting Morgan Freeman as Red wasn't just a bold decision. It wasn't just a diversity win or a clever twist on the source material. It was the beating heart of the film. It changed the way audiences connected to the story. It elevated the emotional weight of the movie, and honestly, it gave us the version of Red we didn't even know we needed. Because maybe Red was supposed to be Irish. But somehow, somewhere along the line, the universe decided that he needed to sound like Morgan Freeman. And thank everything that it did. Morgan Freeman has stories he's kept quiet until now. What really went down on the set of The Shawshank Redemption? At 87, Freeman is finally pulling back the curtain. And the truth he shares at the very end? Oh, it's nothing like you expected. Behind-the-scenes moments Freeman never forgot. Working on The Shawshank Redemption was one of those life-altering experiences that Morgan Freeman could never forget, not even if he tried. And really, why would he want to? Sure, it wasn't always sunshine and roses, but the memories? Oh, they've stuck with him like glue. And not just the big cinematic moments that made the final cut, the stuff we all remember and love, but the behind-the-scenes stuff. The gritty, exhausting, frustrating, and even beautiful little details that only those who lived it could truly understand. Like, have you ever done something so physically draining that you felt it for days, but still kept going because you believed in it that much? That's exactly what happened to Freeman during that seemingly simple baseball scene. Now, if you've watched Shawshank, which, honestly, who hasn't, you probably remember that quiet moment when Red is tossing a baseball while chatting with Andy. Looks pretty chill, right? Just two guys talking and passing time. But here's the thing. What looked like an effortless, casual throw actually took 9 full hours to film. 9. Can you even imagine doing the same throwing motion over and over again for almost half a day? And it wasn't just any throw either. Freeman was doing overhand throws the entire time, which, if you didn't know, is a super awkward motion, especially if you're not used to it. His arm absolutely wrecked by the end of the day. But get this, he didn't complain once. Not a peep. He just did it with quiet determination. And the next day, the man came back to set with his arm in a sling, ready to keep working like nothing had happened. Can we just take a moment to admire that kind of professionalism? Like, who does that? And that's not even the wildest part. Years later, after a car accident in 2008 left his left hand permanently damaged, yes, the same hand he used in that baseball scene, Freeman had to start doing things with his right hand, almost like that intense scene foreshadowed what was coming. Life is weirdly poetic sometimes, isn't it? But if you think the physical stuff was the only challenge, oh no, there was way more happening on the creative side too. Ever wonder how that rich, velvety narration came to be? The one that basically is the voice of the movie? Turns out, it wasn't as smooth a process as you might think. Freeman actually recorded all the narration before filming had even kicked into high gear. Sounds smart in theory, right? Get the voiceover done so you can match it with the visuals later. But in reality, it caused all kinds of headaches. Because once the camera work began, director Frank Darabont realized how tricky it was to sync every scene to the pre-recorded lines. Timing had to be exact, and some scenes, like that tough-as-nails roof tarring scene, were already physically demanding without having to worry about narration timing. And speaking of that roof scene, did you know they were actually tarring a real roof? No movie magic there. They were working with hot, sticky tar under the sun. And let's just say that tar isn't exactly forgiving. It dries fast, it gets everywhere, and it's heavy. Combine that with the pressure of nailing the timing for voiceover that had already been recorded. Brutal, but still, despite all that, the payoff was so worth it. Freeman remembers looking around after one take and seeing someone on set with literal tears streaming down their face. That's when you know you've captured something special, right? Now, let's talk about the vibes on set. Because not everything was creative harmony. In fact, there were times when the tension was so thick you could practically slice it with a butter knife. Freeman was totally honest about it. He said most of the friction was between the cast and Darabont. The main issue? Darabont's obsession with doing take after take, even when it felt like nothing had changed. Can you imagine pouring your heart into a scene only to be told, "Let's do it again," for the 10th time? Freeman wasn't having it. He'd straight up say no sometimes. And not because he was being difficult, but because, as he put it, he didn't want to chew the scenery. He believed acting wasn't about hammering the same emotion into the ground. It was about being present, authentic, and doing something over and over without purpose. That just sucked the energy out of it. And let's not forget the prison itself, the Ohio State Reformatory. Sounds dramatic, but it's true. That place was a beast. The building had been shut down for inhumane living conditions. So yes, not exactly a cozy movie set. It was hot, it was humid, and the workdays, 15 to 18 hours long, 6 days a week for 3 months. Just imagine dragging yourself to work in that haunted, crumbling, heat-soaked prison every day. Tim Robbins put it perfectly. You could feel the pain. It was the pain of thousands of people. That kind of energy? It lingers, and it gets into your bones. So when tensions flared, it wasn't just egos clashing, it was everyone reaching their limit, physically and emotionally. But here's the beautiful irony. All those struggles, all that tension, the sweat, the injuries, the stubborn creative differences, they somehow came together to make something magical. Darabont, for all his perfectionism, learned a powerful lesson from the experience. He later admitted that a good director has to know how to read the room, to understand what each actor needs to give their best. Not a one-size-fits-all approach, but a real sensitivity to the people he's working with. And in the end, that push and pull between the vision and the performance gave us one of the greatest films of all time. So, The Shawshank Redemption wasn't just a movie Freeman worked on. It was a turning point, a chapter filled with pain, grit, growth, and those rare flashes of raw human connection that make it all worth it. And isn't that kind of what the film is about too? Finding hope, meaning, and redemption in the darkest places? Funny how life and art can blur like that. The film's evolution through Freeman's eyes. You know, not every actor lives long enough to see one of their so-called flops turn into an outright cultural phenomenon. But Morgan Freeman? Oh, he did. And at 87, he talks about it with this gentle sort of awe, like he's still wrapping his head around how The Shawshank Redemption, the little movie that barely made a splash back in 1994, ended up becoming a film that so many people around the world now treasure like it's a family heirloom. Isn't it crazy how something can totally bomb at first, and I mean really flop, and then somehow become the movie people swear by when they're asked, "What's your favorite film of all time?" Like, how does that even happen? When Shawshank first came out, it was up against some serious heavyweights, Pulp Fiction, Forrest Gump, and a whole buffet of big-name movies that were dominating theaters. So naturally, this quiet, gritty prison drama just faded into the background. It only made about $16 million, and considering the budget was around $25 million, that was a gut punch for everyone involved. Morgan Freeman was right there in the thick of it, watching all these brilliant cast and crew members who had given everything to the project walk away disappointed. You know, that kind of heartbreak that's not loud or dramatic, just the silent kind that lingers in the air like smoke after a fire? Yes, it was that kind of heartbreak. They knew they had made something special, something honest, raw, and deeply human, but the world just didn't seem ready to see it yet. And you can't help but wonder how many beautiful things in life go unnoticed just because they didn't come wrapped in shiny paper. But then something magical started to happen, and it didn't happen overnight either. Nope, it was slow, like watching a sunrise when you're not even sure it's coming. Shawshank started getting airtime on cable, especially on TNT, and people who'd never heard of it before were suddenly stumbling upon it late at night. And you know how it is, you're flipping channels, nothing's really catching your attention, then boom, there's this story about a banker and a wrongly convicted killing, and this odd, gentle friendship blooming in the harshest of places. One viewing turned into two, and before anyone realized what was going on, this flop had become one of the most rented movies of 1995. Isn't that something? A movie that had quietly slipped out of theaters came roaring back into people's homes and hearts, one VHS tape at a time. Morgan Freeman saw it happen, like someone watching a plant he thought was dead suddenly bloom out of season. It fascinated him, this slow burn rise to glory, and you can hear the amazement in his voice when he talks about it. He often says it's a wonderful feeling to be part of something that's going to outlast you. And doesn't that just hit you right in the chest? He's not just talking about movie rankings or awards. He's talking about legacy, the idea that you were involved in something so meaningful, so beautifully crafted, that people will still be discovering it long after you're gone. Freeman often reflects on that with a smile, saying how it kind of confirms what they all felt deep down while filming. Even with the long days, the grueling shoots, the bitter cold, they knew they were making something rare, something with soul. But they also knew the world doesn't always reward soul right away. Sometimes it takes time, and that's exactly what happened. The film's rise to the top wasn't flashy. It was earned inch by inch, through word of mouth, through shared VHS tapes, through quiet Saturday nights on cable when someone, somewhere, needed a reminder that hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things. We all remember The Shawshank Redemption as a masterpiece, but what if I told you the man behind Red has been quietly holding on to a few shocking stories for over 30 years? You're not going to want to miss a second of this, because the biggest reveal comes right near the end, and it'll leave you speechless. Little-known facts Freeman shared. Morgan Freeman has some stories about that film that even the most die-hard fans might not know. And you know the cool part? It's not just random trivia. It's the kind of behind-the-scenes stuff that makes you feel even more connected to the movie. Like, you watch it again with this new lens thinking, wait, was that what was really happening? Seriously, you'll never look at some of those scenes the same way again once you hear what Freeman's shared over the years in interviews and retrospectives. It's like having a secret VIP pass to the making of one of the greatest films ever. And trust me, Morgan didn't just show up, act, and go home. He was in it, heart and soul. So first, let's talk about the most heartwarming little gem. Morgan Freeman's son actually appears in the movie. Can you believe that? Like, literally in the movie, not just hanging around the set or visiting dad at work. No, Alfonso Freeman, Morgan's real-life son, made 2 appearances in The Shawshank Redemption. Now here's the sweet twist that gets people every time. Remember those mug shots of a younger Red attached to Red's parole papers? Yes. Those aren't old photos of Morgan with a good haircut. They're actually pictures of Alfonso. Isn't that just the cutest thing? Freeman shared this in a 2019 interview, and fans have been swooning over it ever since. But wait, it gets better. Alfonso didn't just lend his face. He actually had a speaking role too. Remember that chaotic, almost comical scene when the new prisoners are being led in? And you hear inmates shouting, fresh fish today. We're reeling them in. That voice, that excitement. One of those guys was Alfonso. Isn't it amazing how a movie about loneliness and imprisonment has such a sweet family touch hidden in the mix? Like, can you imagine how proud Morgan must have felt watching that with his son on screen? And then there's the Mozart scene. That scene. You know the one I mean? The moment Andy locks himself in the warden's office and plays Che Soave Zeffiretto from The Marriage of Figaro over the prison's loudspeakers? Total chills. Literal goosebumps every time. But here's what most people don't know. That moment wasn't even in the original Stephen King novella. Can you imagine that? One of the most iconic moments in film history, not in the original story? It's wild. But get this, even Stephen King himself admitted later that he wished he had written it. That's how powerful that scene is. According to Freeman, that entire moment captured something deeper than just rebellion. It was about reminding everyone in that prison, even for just a minute, what it felt like to be human. Morgan said it best. It reminds them of marriage, love, women, freedom, all that which is not Shawshank. Can you imagine being in a place where every single beautiful thing is stripped away? And then, suddenly, Mozart floating through the cold gray corridors like a warm breeze. Andy risked solitary just to give that gift to everyone else. Isn't that the purest definition of dignity? Sharing beauty when you have nothing else to give. But wait, let's talk about the ending. Because this part might surprise you the most. If you've only seen the movie and never read King's novella, you might assume the whole beach reunion was part of the original story, right? It just feels so perfect. Red walking across the beach, Andy fixing up that little boat. It's one of the most satisfying endings in movie history. But here's the twist. In the book, their reunion never actually happens on the page. The novella ends with Red saying he hopes to find Andy, that he's going to try, but we never see it. It's left open-ended. Can you imagine watching the movie and having it end with Red just sitting on that bus, unsure if he'll ever see his friend again? That was actually Frank Darabont's original plan. Freeman himself confirmed it, but Castle Rock Productions, smart folks, said, "Look, you've taken audiences through over 2 hours of emotional hell. You really want to leave them hanging?" And apparently, test audiences agreed in a big way. People wanted that closure, that payoff, so they changed it. And thank goodness they did, because that reunion scene is basically the emotional victory lap of the whole film. It's not just a feel-good moment. It's a reward for the characters, for the viewers, for everyone who's ever held on to hope when everything seemed lost. And that's what makes The Shawshank Redemption even more special. And Morgan? He wasn't just a narrator. He was the heart of the whole thing. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.